Hi, we're hoping you can join us this Sunday for a very special show.
This week, we have two music legends from Long Island.
We have Mr. Ron Alexenburg and Jim Faith. Ron is an icon in the music business. Jim has been involved with so many different charities here on Long Island. So come join us.
You have a front row seat for all the fun and excitement. That's 5 o'clock this Sunday on The View, MHTV.
Hi, I'm Tom Mealy.
I am Tommy Moore.
And welcome to the Long Island View. Hey, you know, Tommy, there's times on our show that we get some great people. But I got to tell you, folks, tonight we have two icons. One, a fella from all over the world who's been involved with the music industry, and another fellow who has done more for Long Island in the entertainment business than anybody that I've come to know so far as putting together different types of promotions, productions. He's been involved in the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Just absolutely incredible, the stories that we're going to hear tonight from these two great guys. How you been?
Hanging in there. How was your vacation?
It was good. It was good. I know that I've been getting a lot of feedback about the eye, the cucumbers on the eye. Were you okay with that?
I was cool with it.
All right, because a lot of people are telling me what was
if
the
you're
story
going to
with
go,
the cucumbers.
Go.
Well, that's my point. You know, it was down in Key West. And if anybody's ever had an opportunity to go down to Key West, if you're going to do it for a couple of days. And that's about it, because there's only so much.
And then go to Disney World.
Of the Wall Street that I can deal with. You know, I was down there. And I tell you one more thing. This Robert the Doll thing, if you've ever heard about Robert the Doll down in Key West, other than my wife, I really don't think that it happened. But, you know, it's one of these things. He's supposed to be a 110-year-old possessed doll. Now, I got to tell you, what happens is you go into this room where this doll is. He's in an old fort. And you actually have to ask him your permission to take his picture. Now, let me ask you. If you were down there and you're on this bus and you walk into this fort, because I know how you are, this doll is 110 years old. It's supposed to be, they say, the most possessed doll in the world. Would you ask Robert to take his picture?
I wouldn't get out of the car.
You wouldn't get in?
No.
Why?
I don't. Not my thing.
But you're in there. Would you ask Robert, would you go up to him and say, Robert, can I take your picture?
No.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
That's what I say. Why?
But all right, you know what? I'm not going to go down that road. But anyway, it was a great trip. Vicki and I had a wonderful time, and then we took extended it just a little bit. We took a nice convertible ride up the coast, and we got to Orlando. We had an opportunity to see what is that? Universal Studios.
Well, it seems like you came back in a better spirit. And
I did. You know, sometimes you just need the time off. But you know what? You know, I got to be honest with you. I'm looking across the table right now.
We got two
and I already see him going like this already. Already wanting to start. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our distinct pleasure to introduce here tonight on the Long Island View, Mr. Ron Alexenburg and Mr. Jim Faith. Guys, welcome to the
Thank
View.
you, guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's all. I know you're pushing, Ron. You're pushing.
No. You're the one that said we only have a half an hour. I would talk to you
listen,
guys.
You know what? We own the studio, so we can do what we want here. No, I'm kidding. It's a half-hour show. Ron, before I start, you know, let's face it. If people don't know who you are by now, then they're living in a cave. All right. But What I really want to do, and excuse the glasses, I want to talk about Mr. Jim Faith, if it's okay, just for a minute, because I pulled this off the internet, and actually I know Jim, and I've known him for a while now, and even reading through this, I was blown away. So let me just read something. Jim Faith has promoted and produced Tony Bennett, the Beach Boys, Alice Cooper, Cheap Trick, B.B. King, Hot Tuna, Pat Benatar, George Benson. I mean, the list, James Brown, the list goes on and on. Jim, you're also involved with, well, you were the founder from the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
One of the founders, yeah. There were two individuals that got us all together, and there were 10 of us that met at Stony Brook University 10 years ago.
And the Great South Bay Music Fest. You know, I've been going to that. I can't even remember how many years now I've been going to that festival,
great
not knowing that you had anything to do with it up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you put together the Great South Bay Music Festival, which is one of the biggest festivals on Long Island. It's 4 or 5 days, isn't it?
It's 3 days now. We're trying to get 4 days out of the village, so we're hoping for that. But,
that's amazing.
But yeah.
And Ron Alexenburg, I mean, go ahead, where do you want to start? I mean,
I think we can let him run.
The president of Epic Records, the president of Columbia Records, the youngest vice president ever in Columbia and Epic Records. Nobody thought the Thriller album would go anywhere. He steps up to the plate, and it is the biggest selling album ever.
By far.
Am I correct?
Yes,
By
you are.
far.
Tell us about.
I wasn't the president of Columbia Records. I started out at Columbia Records in the promotion department, and then Clive Davis said to me, you know, Columbia's already established. Why don't you consider taking over Epic Records? I said, what do I want with Epic Records? He said, well, I'm going to play you a little record. He played me some guy named Sly and the Family Stone, who I'm happy to say just settled a lawsuit
Yeah, he did.
for $5 million from Jerry Goldstein, who was robbing his royalties. And we were a bunch of kids signing bands that nobody wanted. And we just loved it. We went up against the biggest names in the business at Columbia, who are my friends, going, why are you going to Epic? And I said, it's a chance for all of us to make a name for ourselves. And, you know, the story, last night we were in the city with a new show that our daughter and son-in-law are producing, and I drove by the Warwick Hotel, and every time I drive by it, I stop, because that's where Michael came down the elevator after I called the house phone and said, Michael Jackson, please. How times have changed. Yeah. And he came right down the elevator, and I said, I want to meet you. And he said, I know who you are. I said, well, it's Friday night. You want to come over to my office? We sat there and listened to music for 4 hours.
You know, that's what I admire about him, because you're a lot like me. I like when a person says it can't be done. If somebody says you can't do that, or it's no good, and then you take something and you create something. It's like the studio here. You know, and I don't, without mentioning names, he says you're out of your mind. He says keep your day job. I've been told that throughout my entire life.
The president of CBS Inc. told me.
Yeah.
They're a cartoon act.
Yeah.
We have them on television on Saturday mornings. I said, see that building next door? It was the ABC building.
Right.
I said, I can take this right now. Because we were signing at the time, Cheap Trick, Meatloaf, Boston, Kansas, Jeff Beck. You know, they're all saying no to all of it. And they were all rising up. And I said, I'll put my job on the line for that kid right there. And then as luck would have it, Quincy Jones in the hotel room next to me in California, playing my music too loud, knock on the door. Eddie Eckstein's son. Billy Eckstein's son, who was working for Quincy. Ron, I'm glad it's you. Quincy was going to call the cops. The music is too loud. Because I always carried with me a little stereo. He came over, we hugged. He's from Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And the rest is history. But I stopped by that Warwick Hotel last night. Rochelle was with me. Sends you guys her regards. And Cheryl Reagan, who is working with us and my daughter and my son-in-law on this new Broadway show that I invite you to called One Day, which has been in the works for 15 years. Yeah. And now I'm fortunate to still have the ability to sign artists, listen to singer-songwriters, so much so meeting a medical doctor in California, thanks to my friend Russ Reagan. I brought the song that he wrote to play for you guys. You'll hear it for the first time. That's being recorded this Tuesday with a young lady that's anxious to be with you, Tina DeCara.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're going to debut it. And it's,
let me ask you. You know, I mean, I see a lot of you and Jim together lately. Now, Jim, real quick, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then I want to get to the point, what brings the two of you together, because this is about Long Island. In the Long Island View talks about phenomenal things that are happening on Long Island, and you're bringing two superstars like this together. There's got to be an explosion in the middle, and I think our viewers want to know what that is.
Allow me to embarrass them.
Go ahead.
I listen to music all the time, just like you do, okay? And when I first met him, we went into the city together. We got in his car on the way home. We would still be driving around listening to music, because one of my favorite bands of all time was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And he has I'm trying to get him to book Earth, Wind, and Fire for the festival. One day he will. But his love of music, for somebody who never worked at a record company, bass player, musician, traveling, always on the road, with some of the biggest bands in the world, takes the festival and builds it with our friend Larry Weinberger to be what it is today, where you get to see the Doobie Brothers and you get to see B.B. King in his moments of being...
What enticed you to do something like that? What enticed you to build one of the biggest festivals on Long Island?
Well, it started off that it was a lot smaller, obviously. So we took that one little piece of real estate, and our biggest headline was Richie Havens, and we used the band shell, and and thank God. And that year we even had Odetta, which I was a little nervous about bringing in. I didn't think anybody would get it. Turns out she had a packed house and standing ovation, and it was really wonderful. It was almost her last gig. She died after the next gig. So, and she's an icon. But I wanted to do this because I wanted to I love all kinds of music. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love Bill Evans, Every now and then I need AC/DC, Every now and then I need, so Laura Nero. It's just the kind of thing where I just love all kinds of music. And I felt that there are a lot of people out there that it doesn't have to be a jam festival or a blues festival or this festival. I think there are people out there that just want to hear a lot of great music, good music. And so I try to lay a lot of new music on people at the festival. We've had the Carolina Chocolate Drops. We've had Amy Helm. We've had all these people, infamous String Dusters. And we've also had the Doobie Brothers and War and, people like that. So that's what we try to do. And I think it works. I think people walk around to hear a lot of new bands, but then they also hear legends. And I love legends. We all love legends.
It's the whole atmosphere over there. You have all of the vendors up there. And every vendor seems to be different. I know walking through it last year, I'm sorry, it was the year before. That year we were up in Canada, but the year before, walking through, it was just amazing. You are also a founding member of the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Tell us about that. Long
Island Music Hall of Fame, 10 years ago. A group of us were called by two gentlemen, Norm Pruslin and Rich Lahamadou, who has since moved to Atlanta. And Norm was he's a professor at Stony Brook. He was also ran Stony Brook University radio station for 30-something years. So was there for all those concerts, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, but he was the guy. So he was the guy. Anyway, he's a very close friend. He called me and said, look, we're having this meeting. We're a little tired, and this is important for your viewers. We're a little tired of the way Long Island is perceived musically. Every time a band wants to get a record deal from guys like him, they always have to say they're from Manhattan. We could never say we're from Long Island. Long Island was Amy Fisher and Joey Buttafuoco. Yeah. It wasn't Gershwin, Cole Porter, Twisted Sister, Billy Joel, Mose Allison, Paul Simon. It wasn't those people.
I always say it on my show, too, and I really believe it because I'm very involved with the Long Island music scene, too. Don't you believe that Long Island is the music mecca almost of the world?
You know who proved it, strangely enough, was Dee Snider. When he got up one time and he said, more music has been recorded by people from Long Island than anywhere else in the United States. And we went, no, in the world. And we went, that's insane. He can't be, Then we checked it out. And as it turns out,
on Long Island.
No, what happened was,
go to Nashville
what happened was, people had to record in Manhattan. They had to come to Manhattan, but they couldn't afford to live there. It was really that simple. And it's still going on. They had to live in Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, Suffolk. So you had Broadway, you had the recordings, you had everything else. California had their thing too. But New York had all the different kinds of music. It had the best in classical music because of Lincoln Center and because, it had Broadway. It had the rock clubs. It had everything. So everybody had to live in Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, or Suffolk and be in Manhattan. So you had all these people that came from Brooklyn. You have the oldies thing that came from, the 50s, doo-wop things that they all lived in Brooklyn and Queens. You have the Queens Jazz Trail, which was everybody, Louis Armstrong and the Basie and, all these people that live there, the Heath brothers. And so that's Long Island. you know, and just to go one step further, we had our first gala at Patchogue Theater. We had Billy Joel, Mountain, Vanilla Fudge, we had the Gershwin family, we had the George M. Cohan family. These are all Long Islanders, okay? And Jimmy Webb was there. And I've said this story before at the galas, but Jimmy Webb was there, and he's from, like, Midwest. And he was with his wife, who worked for Channel 21, and he's looking around, and Jimmy Webb, great songwriter, legendary songwriter, and wrote The Worst That Could Happen, wrote all these songs. And he's looking around, he sees Billy Joel, he sees the George M. Cohan family, he sees Twisted Sister, he sees the Aguisto Guitars, he sees all these people, and he wrote a thing in the paper, in the Times, in the New York Times a couple of days later, and said, here I am, I'm standing, I'm looking around. He says, where I come from, it's basically one kind of music. It's a little crossover every now and then, but I'm looking around and I see all these he goes, and I'm seeing all these people, and then I see Mose Allison, my idol. He says, and I realize that Long Island is an embarrassment of riches. Mm-hmm. And he says, I don't know why, but how can these people from all different types of genres come from this place? And that's the reason. Proximity to Manhattan, garages and basements, odd things that you would think about. I lived in Brooklyn, you know, I grew up in Brooklyn. I lived upstairs. Every time I tried to play my bass, the old Italian lady now just started banging on the pipe, you know. It is absolutely true, you know, and I'd have to sit there and be really quiet. I'd go out to Long Island to jam with somebody. The guy was a bass player. He had a whole basement full of equipment. He had keyboards, he had drums.
You guys come together. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Ron about 3 years ago, I guess, and it actually happened by accident. And in my life, I don't think anything happens by accident. But you guys, I see more and more of you together now. What's going on? Tell us what's happening here.
Well,
my friend.
I'll tell you what it is.
I relate to him.
I'll tell you what it is. I deal with a lot of young artists, and I'm tired of certain things happening to them that there's 3 of them right here on Long Island. Tina DeCaro is one of them. Maria Ellis is another one right here from Suffolk County. And I want to have the opportunity to give them their chance to be heard. And he puts them on. Jamie Bendel was one of the first artists I brought to Jim. And she's a Emory grad, brilliant, brilliant young girl, singer-songwriter. And so much so that she just produced the winning Tony musical, A Gentleman's Between Love and Murder. She's producing with my son-in-law this show that I mentioned to you. And I respect the fact that he gives me the opportunity to bring him young, new.
So you find the artists, Jim's got the venue.
Right.
There's a mutual thing
It's
here.
a great team.
I mean, as you said
I'm
before,
sure
people
Jimmy
don't know who
knows.
Ron is. They've been living on another planet. The thing is, we're riding and we're singing Earth, Wind, and Fire tunes, you know, in my car, and he hands me the phone. And I'm trying to drive. It's 11 o'clock at night. He hands me the phone. Turns out to be the woman that wrote all the Earth, Wind, and Fire tunes.
Allie Willis, who's
Allie
a
Willis. He
copywriter
puts
at
me on the
Columbia
phone with the
Records.
woman that wrote the Earth, Wind, and Fire tunes. So we relate to the same things. You know, Ron was instrumental with bringing Clive Davis to the Hall of Fame for us, and getting Ron Delsner to come and showing them that we're serious, that we're all volunteers. We're not for profit. We give away scholarships, and you know, we're doing a good thing. We're building a
Great
museum.
show this year.
So
Tommy and
and
I.
Ron gets it.
Thanks
He's a
to you guys. You know, I mean, I've never been down there, and I want to say thank you personally for inviting us down there because
great.
you know, I mean, we just had a blast
Good.
being there this past summer for the inductees that came in, and that was incredible. What do you see for the future? Where
Well,
are
we
you
have
going?
a museum. We're building a museum. So that's where we're at right now. We're sitting down with Suffolk County and Steve Ballone, and we have a meeting tomorrow actually with the builders, and we have a location picked out, and that's where we're going. And we'll have a place now where we can put
Anywhere, the location?
It's in Wyandanch. It's Wyandanch
Really?
Rising, and the Suffolk County is going to help us build it and build a museum, and you know, and it's
right next to the
centrally
train station.
located.
Well, that's some train station.
How
they're
big?
building,
How
yeah.
big do
The
you?
building
How
is a
big
train
is
Mass,
station. It's
right
going to be the
inside
Long
of it.
Island Railroad.
Massive.
It's going to be the Long Island Music Hall of Fame train station when you come in. It's like the aquarium in Brooklyn when you drive
Is
into
that
station.
right?
Yeah, and they're putting a lot into this to make this a beautiful neighborhood and great for us, and they're helping us in a way that government should help people.
So when
And
do you anticipate this all coming to?
I think 2016 will probably be on our way, and it's a place where we'll be able to
So now
teach.
the 2 years of getting together with this project.
Well, no, they're spearheading it. I pledge my support to them, being somebody who's lived on Long Island and been successful.
And been inducted.
And I was inducted. And when I got inducted, I said to them, there's 22 recording studios on Long Island. People, like he said before, people don't really realize what is here. 108
That's
miles
right.
long, 18 miles wide. It'd be the 9th largest state in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, based on its population. So there's so many people, so many musicians. I mean, I'm fortunate
It's
to
amazing.
have a pretty good reputation of signing bands that people didn't want.
Right.
You know, and I just talked to Carla DeVito the other day, and you know, Robbie Benson is her husband. He's gone through some health issues, and she says, I still remember the day when Meat came into your office and you called him Mr. Loaf. You know, and this is us. We're a bunch of young kids, you know, and here it is. He's coming out with another album. I can't wait to hear it with Jim Steinman, whose health hasn't been that great. But, you know, I have to tell you, the theaters that are out here, the Suffolk Theater
Beautiful.
for one, and on and on and on. I was invited to see a group that we signed that we couldn't get the record played, The Zombies, The Time of the
Love the
Season.
Zombies.
And
Love-
I hadn't seen Colin Blunstone or Rod Argent in 30 years.
They still sound great.
They
And
do.
when
I
I
saw them at Westbury.
when I got to the theater, what's your name? Who's your daddy?
Yeah.
And I said, that's the greatest T-shirt I've ever seen. Okay? And 5 minutes later, Colin comes over to me and he says, do you know where I can find Billy Swan? And that was strange. And I said, he's another one that had, if your child needs a daddy, I can help. You remember, I Can Help, the Billy Swan that Christofferson brought to us. So there's just so much music. And I've been spending a lot of time in California where our grandchildren are. And that's how I met this doctor and his wife, Charlene, who was just here, who's helping us with this song. And it'll be recorded by Tina, and you guys are going to get it first.
Well, I
But
appreciate
what he
that.
gives me, I hope I give it back to him, is the ability to listen. We're lyric guys.
Right.
Listen to the lyrics. Nobody knows what anybody looks like on radio or television.
Sure.
You know, you're going to watch the Grammys tonight. I'm going to listen to it, okay? And I'm going to hear a lot of music. And I'm going to see Jeff Beck, you know. And then Jeff Beck just sold out the Paramount.
Yeah, he's just, yeah,
I hadn't
was
seen
there
Jeff
Thursday.
in 30 years. It's like we hadn't seen each other in 5
Looks
minutes.
the same.
And I applaud the two of you who built this, who give us the opportunity to come in here and talk about our artists,
No, it's our pleasure.
you know. And I'm very serious, you know.
That's the joy that we get too. I mean, I love bringing new artists, and that's what I wanted to say to you, Jim. That what I really like what you do with the Great South Bay Festival is that not only do you bring the headliners there, but you bring some of our great local talent, like Kerry Carney. Or, you know, there's
Oh,
so
Kerry
many.
kills me, let me tell you.
There's so many great ones around. I mean, and I always talk about it a lot on the shows. Is that I could bring you within 10 miles of here and show you 40 bands on any
Oh, yeah.
given night that will just blow anybody
right.
away. I mean,
Absolutely
the incredible
amazing.
talent that will never be seen.
Right.
And that's what I like, that you do showcase that talent and give them a shot.
We got a few minutes left. Jim, I got to
You
ask
want
you.
to play a record too, right?
Well, it's okay. Go ahead.
We're gonna be playing a
Let's
record.
play a- let's
we're gonna be
play,
playing that album.
Ron's.
Are we gonna play it? We're gonna play it live. All right. Real quick before we put this on, Great South Bay coming up
July 17, 18, 19.
July 17,
Wait,
18, 19.
Do you want to speak about the other,
The album?
the winter
The
festival?
Winterfest, yeah, I'm running a thing called Winterfest Live on the Vine. It's actually 6 weeks. It starts February 21st to March 29th. It's 100 performances, 20 venues. It's throughout the whole East End. It's in Suffolk Theater. It's in all the vineyards. It's in breweries. It's amazing. And we just took it over in November. And
You know, we have so much time, but we have so much little time left.
I'm gonna be
You know,
there.
we're going to
I'm
have to
gonna
have
be
you
there.
back because we need to talk about this
Okay.
venue. But tell us what we're going to hear real quick.
Quick
This
story.
one.
Quick story. This was brought to me by Russ Reagan, who only signed Elton John, Olivia Newton-John, Barry White. We're great friends. And he said to me, you got to hear this. If you don't like it, I'm putting it out myself. He played it for me. It's a demo. You guys will understand. This is a track that we bought that is going to be recorded Tuesday with Tina at Larry Weinberger's Dream Recording Studios.
Okay, Janine, if we have some time, let's throw it on for about 60 seconds. Let's hear a little of this track. Can we get it in? I don't see it on the monitors.
Do we have that track?
No, I'm sorry, I don't see it on the monitors. I'm not seeing it.
It's being played there.
Oh, it's being. I don't see it.
You may want to raise the green a little bit.
It's a story that was written about a young woman saying, "You're better than that. Don't let these guys push you around."
Good.
There it is.
And you can live without him. No, he's not the red side girl. You just got to know that you're better than that. You're better than that. You're so much better, better.
Oh, listen, Janine, we'll cut that right about there. I would love to listen to this whole album. We got about 30 seconds left.
Next time I'll have them play right here.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming down tonight and joining us on The View. We've got to get you back. I mean, I could sit here with them for the next 2 hours and talk about this.
What you're talking about with this winter fest out east, it's kind of like bringing it all back in time, like from the Rascals recording at the Barge.
The Barge,
right?
sure.
You know,
Well, let's get them back sometime soon. But
That'd
ladies
be a
and
great
gentlemen,
band.
thank you for tuning into The View tonight. Next week, we have a great show next week. We have a 7-year-old. You know, we talk about Tommy bringing in local talent from Long Island. We have a 7-year-old, 2 sisters. One's 7, I believe the other one is 10. They're going to be on next week. One is a dancer, one is a singer. You've got to tune in for this next week here on the Long Island View. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Be careful. We're supposed to have some weather coming in. Tommy, anything you want to say?
Just have a blessed week, and I'd like to thank these 2 gentlemen, and they're icons in my eyes, and what you guys do for Long Island music is just phenomenal. And you,
Thanks for having us.
The world music.
Thank you. We'll see you next week on Long Island View.